Hey you guys, it's Teal here back for another video. So today's video, I did the workout program last week. I think next week I'm going to do another workout program. I'm thinking that I'm going to do a Kaiju number 8 just because I know that's about to get animated. I've been reading the manga and I've really enjoyed it. I think it's really cool, so I think that'd be a good fun program to do. Hopefully a lot of people would see it and then that would either inspire them to work out or anything like that. He doesn't have a crazy physique, so I think it'd be a good simple program for a lot of beginners or early and intermediates to use. So let's let's get today's video. So today's video, I'm just going to cover some personal physique weak points and what I do, what I'm doing to fix them, or what I plan to do to fix them as well. So we won't waste any time. There's nothing to really talk about. Let's just get right into it. So the number one that I would say is my biggest weak point is just overall muscle mass. I'm not the smallest guy, but I'm also not the largest guy. The goal is not necessarily to be the largest guy, but I am 6'2". I know I still have a lot of muscle that I can put on my frame. I weigh 200 and I think it was 201 pounds this morning. I'm currently maintaining, and I've been maintaining for about a month. I plan to start the bulk up. Today is the 28th or 29th. I plan to start the bulk continue the bulk at the end of this month, so that way I can continue to raise my weight. Because I know for me to look good and fully filled out, it will take me getting to anywhere from 220 to 230, and then eventually cutting back down and then going back up again. Just kind of toying with it for a little while, but it'll take me gaining about 20 or 30 more pounds to look really filled out. So let's talk about kind of my bulk and how it's been. So I've been bulking for about the last year. Currently, I'm maintaining, like I said, around 201 to 204 pounds, and I'm going to continue the bulk here soon at the end of this month. I plan to do a cut around 220 to 230 pounds. I might do it sooner, but it just really depends on how much fat I accumulate and really what I'm looking like. If I start to look bad I shouldn't because it's just 10 more pounds, but if I start to look bad by 210, we can cut there. But I really don't plan to start considering it until about 220 to 230. It will just depend. If I'm at 220 and I'm still feeling fine, I'll tell you a few things that I'll look at first to be able to tell if I'm feeling very lethargic, if I'm feeling out of shape, then it's definitely a point in time to go ahead and call it quits. Start a cut, at least do a mini cut so that way you can kind of regain some ground. But whenever certain exercises like squats, if you're not able to do more than 10 reps of squats or anything like that, then that's should be a sign to you. So just different things like that, I'll be paying attention to that to make sure that I'm not going to go so far above in weight just for the sake of going up in that weight. It's taken me a year to gain 20 pounds, but that's how I wanted it. This is the first time that I really slowed down my bulk. Usually I can't give you an exact number because I really can't think of it at this time, but I usually gain weight relatively fastly and I don't really care too much. But I was going to do it the same exact way this last time, and I was going to go for maybe getting up to what I am now in 6 months' time. But I wanted to slow it down this time. I wanted to take it easy, and I wanted to just kind of let myself slowly gain that weight. And it's been awesome. I don't have shredded abs. You can still kind of see my abs. I've been really working on my abs as well, doing a lot of exercises, working up in weight with what I'm doing with my abs, so that way I can hypertrophy them and make them a lot more present, even at this higher body fat that I'm at. I would show you guys, but I just ate, and so there's nothing but gut there right now, and I'm gonna spare you guys from that wonderful scene. And the other thing that I'm doing to try and track my overall muscle mass to make sure that I'm gaining in the right areas is I track my body measurements. I do that about once a month. I just did that today. Actually, I do it on an empty stomach if you're going to do it, because that's going to be the best way to get an accurate waist measurement. If I did it right now, my waist would probably be like 33 inches instead of like the 32, or maybe 34 instead of the 32 that it is. Um, but tracking your arm measurement, your leg measurements, everything like that. At first, I really thought of it as being conceited, and it can be if you're doing it in kind of a vain way. I don't care to tell anybody what my body measurements are. If somebody asks, I will tell them, but it's not so that way I can go and tell everybody, "Ooh, I have a 16-inch arm. Ooh, I have this big of legs. Ooh, I have this big of shoulders. This or that." It's so that way I can literally look at it. The app that I use to track all this stuff shows me in a graph, and so I can look at it and make sure it's going up over time. Make sure that if I were to be losing fat, that my waist measurement's going down, and my arm measurement would be slightly going down because I'm losing some of that intramuscular fat, but it's still going down in a reasonable pace. It's not just going from 16 inches to 14 inches within a few months. It gives you a really objective thing to look at, and I'm really glad I started tracking my body measurements. So if you're into bodybuilding, you want to grow in size, tracking your body measurements is really good, because if you're doing exercises that you absolutely hate to do and you're not seeing any growth from it, the best way to tell is you're doing your body measurements, and then you can go and you can change that. You can change it to something that you enjoy doing, and then you notice you're making gains, so you can stick with it. The thing, or the biggest reason, another good reason that I track my body measurements is to make sure the exercises that I'm doing are actually hitting the right muscles. So if I'm doing certain types of curls, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that, whatever it is, squats, I'm doing Bulgarian split squats, then I can actually track and make sure that I'm making gains. Granted, from 1 month to the next month, you may not see almost any type of gains, but over this last year, you will be able to see gains, and that's the biggest thing. That's why I only track it once a month. I could do it every week, but to me, doing it every week is kind of obsessive because you're not going to see that big of changes. You should be able to. I track it just every month. So, and then the last thing that I do is I'm tracking my I'm tracking my reps, and I'm tracking my weight on the bar to make sure I'm progressing in those as well. The app that I use to track my body measurements actually is the same one that I use to train with, and it lets me track how many reps I'm doing. It tracks the entire workout, but it lets me track the reps. It can show me a graph for that. Lets me check the weight that I'm using on the bar. I can see a graph for that. It projects your 1 rep max. Not very big on 1 rep maxes. I haven't 1 rep maxed in, I really couldn't tell you, but it's been probably at least 3 or 4 years since I've done a single 1 rep max. But tracking all those things is just making sure that I'm making progress where I should be, and that I'm doing the right things that should have me gaining muscle. There's no way to tell until you do it consistently for a while. So I may have to do the work for 2 or 3 or 4, 5 or 6 months before I can say, yes, I've definitely gained some muscle there. And I can tell that I've gained some muscle over the last year. These 20 pounds that I've gained. Definitely gained some fat too, but that is inevitable if you're natural and you're just doing it over the longer term. It's going to happen. Just a really quick thing to talk about too. Gaining weight, for me personally, I think it's worked out a ton better since I did it slowly, but that doesn't mean that that's the right way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it. You could gain the weight faster and just accept that you're going to accept some fat gain, but you may also be gaining some more muscle. Whenever I was doing it faster though, for me, I just think that that worked very well for me in the beginning, but it was just getting to the point where it wasn't working for me. I've seen a lot of people say that as they've gotten more advanced, that's what's happened to them. So keep that in mind. You may be able to get away with gaining weight faster and just being able to do a cut, but I was just yo-yoing back and forth from going from maybe right at 200 to 180, maybe right at 200 to 190, just right in that area. And so now the reason I did it so slow is because I wanted to give myself plenty of runway to get up to the 220s, 230s, if that's as far as I need to get before I do my next cut. And I'm really going to try to get to 230. I'm not going to force feed, do anything like that. I think that's pushing it. I don't think you have to get to that point. If I'm getting to that point, I definitely need to change something, but I want to shoot for the 230s and hope that I can get there before I need to cut, so that way I can have a good cut to hopefully come down to 200, 210. But it'll all depend on fat. If I get way too fat, then we'll call it early. We'll cut at 215 if we have to. So let's talk about some actual weak points in my physique, things that I'm going to be working on, or things that I'm specifically focusing on now, just other than overall muscle mass, because there is more that I can work on, or there are some more. Granted, all these things will be taken care of if I gain more overall muscle mass, but I think it's also good to look at your physique in an objective way. So that way I can tell you guys what I see in myself and what I need to work on. Granted, this is not me putting myself down, saying that I have a terrible physique, this or that, saying that I have the best physique. Just because maybe I'm not going to talk about my chest doesn't mean it's the best chest in the world. I know it's not. Just because I'm not talking about my quad size doesn't mean they're the biggest quads in the world, because they're not. These are just things that I see in my physique that I want to try and catch up to the rest of my body, or things that I think I could improve on and that I want to show improvements on. And I think that's a good way to look at your physique. It's not you. I think at the very beginning of your bodybuilding journey, you may look at it in a very negative way, and you say, "Oh, I'm just too small." I see a lot of body dysmorphia in guys right when they're getting started. I had it whenever I was getting started, thinking that I was too small, I wasn't going to get big, all that, all that stuff that a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people I know go through. But now I'm trying to look at it as an objective way, as an art piece, as a sculpture, and saying, "Oh, this is what I can go and improve on next." And I know I just got to put in the work, take the time, and get there when I get there. So let's talk about the specific body parts. So my upper back, just the width and thickness of my upper back. Whenever I say upper back, I mean everything from my lower back up, the lats, the rhomboids, the traps, everything from my upper back up. Whenever I first started working out, I was a chest guy. I love to do chest. I did chest and biceps. I know there's a certain amount of people that fall into that category, because you can't see your triceps, you can't see your back, and so you don't think about training those nearly as hard or as heavy or as much. You don't care about those muscles because you can't see them, but now I'm really working out and trying to round out my physique. And more than me having a big chest, I want a big back that's going to give me a wider look. I'm a taller guy and I'm very narrow, and so I know having bigger shoulders and a bigger back will give me a wider appearance, and that's something that I'm going for. And I also want a thicker appearance from the side, so I need to work on the thickness in my back as well. So let's talk about some of the exercises, what I'm doing specifically to add some of that width and that thickness. So doing chin-ups, and those are going to be working on my lats as well, and I'm using those to specifically push weight progression. So I'm doing them in a 4 to 8 rep range. I've said this a million times, but this is parts of the ZOD program that Natural Hypertrophy released. I made some changes in there, and so some of these things that I'm going to be doing are changes that he doesn't have in his program. That is what the basis of this program comes from. So that is not me that made this program. I just liked it. I wanted to give it a try. I've been enjoying it, but I made some of the changes to see what I wanted to change, maybe some different things that I wanted to do, and learned a few things here and there. So this is his program, just something that I made some changes to. And I'm pushing weight progression on the chin-ups. It's in a lower rep range. I'm also doing pull downs on one of my other days that's in a higher rep range to kind of help stimulate some more hypertrophy, just working in a different rep range. I'm also doing rack pulls. These are a higher rep range because it's going to give you more stretch on your upper back. Rack pulls are not necessarily necessary, but this is the first time in my life that I've done them the last 6 months or the last 4 months. I had a break of not doing them because I was getting some lower back issues, but that wasn't because of the rack pulls. That was prior to the rack pulls. I was kind of had a hard head, and I continued to do the rack pulls for a little bit before I would just kind of call it quits, and I knew I had to do something else, and I'd come back to rack pulls. But I've really been enjoying them. I think they're a fun exercise. Something to be careful on is just not to stack weight on there and just grip and rip and just pull it and do whatever. I think that could kind of lead you down the wrong path if you're just doing it for the sake of wanting to do rack pulls so that way you can pick up some heavy weight. But I'm doing it in a high rep range. We're doing it from 12 to 15. I'm also doing, this is something that's a little bit different from the ZOD program that Natural Hypertrophy has in his, but I'm also doing farmer's carries on a different day. I'm doing them for a distance. I don't know the exact distance, but I'm doing them until I know I'm getting pretty close to tired, which is also going to work on my upper back thickness. So the rack pulls and then the heavy carries, the farmer's carries, are going to work on my upper back thickness. Those your traps, everything working to try and keep your body up straight is going to help work on your upper back thickness whenever you're doing those farmer's carries. And the last thing is deadlifts in the lower rep range. I know some people think that deadlifts are a leg exercise. Some people think that they're a back exercise. I'm of the camp that they're a back exercise. I didn't do deadlifts for many, many, many months, maybe like 7 or 8 months, and it may have even been closer to 9 to 10 months. I didn't do any deadlifts. I just recently, the last 5 or 6 weeks, started working back in deadlifts. And the first 3 or so weeks, the sorest thing from doing deadlifts was my lats. And it depends how you do them. You could do them in a way that's mostly leg drive. You should use leg drive, but I feel them a lot in my lats, so I'm going to count them as a lat exercise. The way that my body's also made is a little bit different. I have very long legs, short torso, and so that's going to cause me to I'm kind of more advantaged in a deadlift than I will be in a squat. I'm just kind of made to deadlift a little bit more because I got very long arms as well. So I enjoy doing deadlifts. I count them as being for my back. So that's something else that's going to work in a lot of thickness. It's not, I'm not going for 1 rep max. I'm not trying to be the strongest, but something even for bodybuilding. If I up my strength on my deadlift, that should be upping all the other things that I can do with my back, just because that's going to make me bigger. It's going to make me stronger, give me more resilient back. I'm doing rows with a closer grip to work my lats, and on some days I'm doing either whenever the day in the week that I'm going to do those comes in, I'm either going to do a chest exercise or do a back. What I've been kind of experimenting with here recently is 1 week I'll do a chest, 1 week I'll do a back, and so I'm trying to get more back work in because I care more about my back than I do my chest right now. So I do other chest exercises, but sometimes I'm trying to push back a little bit more. I also do rows with a wider grip to work on my upper back and a medium rep range. And that's basically all I'm doing for back to try and work on my back. The way that Natural Hypertrophy, something that I've liked about his program, something that I like about the way that he made this program, is that you hit back basically every day. You just don't absolutely destroy it. You're just kind of hitting a different function, a different movement of the back. And that's something that I've enjoyed. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of gains out of it. So let's get into the next thing. I forgot to mention, these are not in any particular order. So it's not that I think my back is the worst. This next one, these are just all listed out. So don't think these are in any particular order. So the next is my forearm size. I am, like I said, I'm 6'2". I was a pretty lanky guy. I probably started at 160 pounds. And 160 pounds on a 6'2" frame is nothing. The wind will knock you over. So something that I need to work on is my forearms. I have a very long forearm. The thing is extremely long, so I need to work on the thickness. I will never have the biggest forearms because it has not a very short insertion. I have just it inserts right about midway through, or it's not the longest insertion. I don't have a lot of muscle mass there yet, but that's what we're going to be working on, because if I can fill those out, it's going to make them look a lot more beefy, just like every other muscle in your body. So I've been doing some Captain of Crush, just the hand grip implement where you squeeze. I've been doing that, and dumbbells holds, and the farmer's carries from the back day to all work on my grip strength, which will help me push the progression on doing other forearm exercises like these ones that are coming up. So hammer curls, for example, for the brachialis growth, those are also going to help with just regular forearm growth because you're getting a stretch while you're doing it. Supinated wrist curls and reverse wrist curls for overall hypertrophy and muscle growth. So doing those strength implements will help me push the progression further on these other hypertrophy exercises. So that's just it on forearms. Forearms is very small, easy. You can do a lot of forearm work. Just a tip, you can do a lot of forearm work when you're doing other stuff. I try not to use straps a ton. I was getting kind of reliant on straps, but I also do train my forearms, and so I'm not too worried about my forearms getting too small because I use straps because I'm also training them. But what I'm trying to do too is not use straps. This is going to sound crazy. What I'm trying to do is not use straps too much. That way my forearms, even when they're tired, are forced to work a little bit. And I'm assuming, I'm thinking the way that my thought process is going to work, is that I'm going to get some more hypertrophy out of that. Another weakness, so we'll go on to the next one. Another weakness that I have is overall neck thickness. So you'll notice a lot of these problems are kind of the what is it? 3 out of the 4 of these are some of my extremities, some of the parts that are furthest away from my torso, just because since I'm taller and I'm more appendage than I am torso, those tend to be a lot less thick on me. So neck is my next one. So I have and it actually isn't too bad. I have added some muscle there, but I feel like I can add just a little bit more. It's right at 16. My neck is at 16 inches. I feel like I can get it, once I can get it about to like 17 and a half, it'll be a lot more comfortable. Maybe I can just chill out on the neck training and just do a lot to keep it at maintenance. An easy way to look a lot more jacked is your neck thickness. Everybody will be able to see your neck. It doesn't matter what you're wearing, unless you're wearing a turtleneck or a lot of clothing, a big jacket, something like that to cover it up. Most people are going to be able to see your neck. They won't always be able to see your calves. They won't always be able to see your forearms, wearing a long sleeve shirt, anything like that. But people will always be able to see your neck. So it's a cheat code to kind of give yourself a more jacked appearance. If you ever see wrestlers, jiu-jitsu, you know that they probably do a sport like that. Just because their necks are freaking huge. So, so doing neck curls, whenever I first started, or currently I'm doing neck curls once per week. Whenever I started training neck, just this last year, I was doing neck curls 3 times per week in a higher rep range. I only did the neck curls because it's the easiest to do. I didn't want to start doing neck extensions yet. I was kind of wanted to give neck curls a try, so I just started with that. But now I'm doing neck curls once per week because I'm doing neck extensions twice per week to try and catch it up. At some point, I may switch it back, do neck curls twice per week. I may eventually, I don't do any side movement, side work with my neck. I might start working that in so that way I can hit my neck from every single angle. I just haven't started that yet. It's easier to do these two, and I wouldn't always say just do what's easier, because it's easier to always do what's easier, but that's just kind of what I found works for me right now, is doing those two. I've still seen some growth out of it. I know I'm still getting some growth out of it. For my neck extensions, I do them at my house, so I do them at the home gym here. And I actually bought one of the harnesses to be able to do it, and I think those are it's very good. I want to say it was only $15. I bought it somewhere on Amazon. But the harness for doing neck extensions is so much better than either putting a plate, putting a dumbbell, whatever you're going to do. Doing neck extensions with the harness makes it 10 times better. So I would say do that. I do my neck curls still at the gym. The one day that I do them, it happens to be at the gym. So tomorrow, actually, when I go to the gym, is when I'm going to do my neck curls, and I just put a dumbbell kind of on my forehead. I'm either wearing a hat sometimes, or I have a bandana on, or whatever I have. And if I don't have anything, then I just take whatever shirt. I usually wear some type of shirt, and I wear like a tank I wear like a tank top or something under it, and I'll just wrap the shirt and the dumbbell, the handle of it, so that way I can put it there and it won't hurt my head too much. You're gonna look a little crazy doing neck. I don't think I've ever seen anybody doing neck at the gym, but it is what it is. I go to the gym to try and work out to improve my physique and go after the goals I'm after. So it shouldn't matter what anybody thinks of you if you're doing whatever you want to do, as long as you're not doing something that I would innately say is dangerous. Then it kind of doesn't matter what people think. So just do you. If you want to train your neck. I was very self-conscious about training my neck at first, and then I just kind of stopped caring. I might do stuff in the gym now that looks a little bit weird, but I'm like, I don't care anymore. So not just because I'm the most confident guy. It's just, I have certain goals that I'm going after, and you can't always care. So the last thing that I'll say about neck is it's the only muscle that I'm not worried about training too heavy and pushing on strength. just gradually increasing the weight, the working weight over time. Neck does not need to be trained particularly heavy. If you train it for long enough, if you train it for 10 or 15 years, you will get to a point where you're training it pretty heavy. But that's not, neck is not something that I would try and, push for, get it heavy, heavy, heavy. I would just use a good working weight that is your first week and your first few weeks, your neck might be pretty sore. It probably is going to be pretty sore and we use it all day. So you don't want to go too heavy on it. The biggest thing that you don't want to do is injure your neck, because if you injure your neck, then that is just, that's terrible. It's a recipe for disaster that can affect you for the rest of your life, and it's going to affect you daily until you get it taken care of. So don't start training neck extremely heavy. I always do it in a 15 to 20 rep range. Whenever I say higher rep range, I'm usually talking about 15 to 20. If I say medium, I'm talking about maybe like a 10 to 15, 8 to 12. If I'm talking about low rep range, I'm talking anywhere from 6 to 10 or from 4 to 8. Just to preface that, I should have said that way earlier. But don't train your neck extremely heavy. I can't make you or tell you what to do. Can't make you not train your neck heavy. I just wouldn't recommend doing it. I don't see a lot of benefit in training your neck heavy. I think it always feels best too getting a 15 or 20 reps in for your neck. So first few weeks, just get 15 reps, get the blood flowing. I could only use like a 5, or I could only use maybe a 10-pound dumbbell. It may have been just a 5 to start. And now I'm working up to doing neck extensions with 35 pounds and doing neck curls with 20 pounds. So you'll get there eventually. Just take your time, build up, and you'll get there. And the very last thing that I need to improve on, you guys should know it just because if you've seen any of my other videos, I've already talked about this, but it is my calf size. So let's get in with this. I luckily don't have to spend too much time on this because I've talked about it in another video. So this should be short and sweet unless I go on any tangents, because you guys know I do enjoy my tangents. So I'm doing standing barbell calf raises. I'm doing it in a high rep range. I'm limited what I can do at home with limited equipment, and so I'm doing those. I superset those with my barbell squats. I don't get a good stretch because I'm doing them just standing. I don't get to do them on a machine where I get that extra stretch at the bottom, and so those I just kind of have to do what I can do. It's better than nothing is what I'll say. Obviously, if I had a machine, if I had a perfect world, I was doing some single leg things. Here we go on a tangent. I was doing some single leg things for a while of, standing on one leg, putting stacking 2 plates up and doing a calf raise like that. But I just really wasn't able to progress. I was more worried about the balance aspect of it, and I just wasn't getting a ton out of it. I gave it a try for a while, and if you're able to do it, obviously, and you can progress on it, stick with it and progress on it. I just wasn't really getting what I wanted out of that exercise, and so I'm just doing this. I'm able to overload this. I think I'm doing 155 pounds for 20 reps. I'm doing just standing calf raises with the barbell on. So I'm doing standing calf raise machine at the gym in a medium rep range. So I'm doing it for about 10 to 15 reps. I'm implementing something new here, and it's not something that I would recommend just starting to do because I can't tell you if you're going to get a ton of benefit out of it. I've been doing it with my triceps some too, to just kind of test and see what I can get out of it. But after I complete all my sets, on my very last set, whenever I finish my last rep, I will try and do some forced partials, or just do some partials of just barely kind of getting the weight up. I cannot tell you that is obviously going to increase my calf size tremendously. I can't tell you what it's going to do. I wouldn't recommend to just go ahead and start doing that. Do your actual reps, do the real reps first. You can try stuff later. It's just something that I'm trying right now to see if that may be, it's obviously not going to be some key, some secret that everybody's holding from us, but it's something that I'm trying to implement to see if maybe that's another way that I can add some more calf size, especially since I'm not able to get a good stretch at home doing some of these calf raises. I'm trying to do some of those. That way I'm just kind of maybe forcing some more hypertrophy, just making myself get a little bit more in at the very end of that set. And I just recently started doing seated calf raises at home in a higher rep range. It's more stretch than the barbell calf raises while I'm standing, but it's not a ton. The reason that it's a little bit more is because I do them with my foot just seated right here on this part of my squat rack, and I just get a tiny bit more stretch. I do them with no shoes on, so that way I'm able to get just a tiny bit of stretch, but it's not a ton, but it's what I can do at home. I could also just completely cope with it and say that I can't do anything. I can't get a good stretch, so I'm not going to do it at all. But that's not what I'm going to do. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to try and push, try and show you guys what you can do, the different ways to look at things, and the different ways that you can try and push through to find workarounds with it. And it depends too. If you're working out only in the gym, you're going to be able to do normal calf raises, normal seated calf raises, and you shouldn't have any excuse to not be trying to hit your calves if you want to try and improve them. So the last thing that I'm doing, and it's not a direct implement, but it's something that is going to have some type of carryover, is the weighted carries that I'm doing will help grow the calves, but I'm not doing the weighted carries to help grow the calves. By having to carry so much weight and walking, If you're the way that you're just pressing your foot down, it's not a calf raise because you're not getting a full stretch on it, but that should hopefully cause some calf hypertrophy. But I'm not doing those for the calves at all. It's just something that I can assume that I'll probably get some little type of benefit, maybe some strength benefit out of, maybe some little bit of hypertrophy benefit. But I'm doing my weighted carries. I think it was 120. It was either 120 or 130 pounds total, not in each hand. Doing 130 pounds total of a carry, and so that should net me some type of benefit other than just the normal strength gains that I'll get from carrying a heavy amount of weight around. And now I just have something that was kind of funny for you guys, something that's kind of hilarious that I was trying, but I absolutely saw nothing in. So I was doing, I tried a little bit of an implement for doing my calves. I did walking on my tippy toes. This is going to sound hilarious, and I kid you guys not, I did this. I didn't video it. I didn't think I was going to get anything out of it, but I was like, hey, there's nothing to lose trying to spend some time to do that on my off day since I have all this home gym equipment. I was like, I can literally try it and I'll either gain from it or not gain from it, and I can tell people if it did or didn't work. It didn't work for me. I didn't put a whole lot of time into it, and that's something in the gym that you have to do is you have to really put in weeks and weeks and weeks, something to really test if it works most of the time. You can sometimes get away with not doing that much time. I did it for about 4 to 5 weeks and I saw absolutely nothing from it. And so I just stopped doing it. I was starting to add some weight. I did it for 5 minutes at first, and then I added it to 10 minutes. And it really just got my calves tired. There's absolutely no stretch going through it because you're just standing on your tippy toes. But I thought it was something that I could try. Whatever. I've had the same size calves for a little bit now, and I'm kind of stalled out on them, and so I was just kind of trying different things. So keep that in mind in the gym, just in general. Other than this being kind of silly, funny, and goofy, whatever, very quirky of me to try that. That you may occasionally have to try something in the gym that you think is a little bit weird or it's a little bit strange, a little bit different, so that way you can continue to push progress. And sometimes you're going to be wrong. I feel like I was wrong on that. I didn't gain a lot of benefit from that. Maybe I should have tried it for longer, but I felt like I was just wasting my time, so I stopped that. And then that's where I'm actually doing the seated calf raises. I'm doing those on one of my off days from the gym, so technically I'm still training on an off day, but it's just calves, so it's literally nothing. So that actually does it for this video. The last thing that I'm going to cover is just talking about kind of some patterns that you should have seen or some patterns that you may not have recognized that are happening with all these things that I talked about here. So things that you should see that are repeated in these muscles that I'm trying to work on. So there's some exercise that's helping me push some type of strength progression. I'm working on the muscles from multiple angles with a variety of exercises. I'm using a variety of rep ranges. That is the keys, or those are the different parts of a hypertrophy exercise program that are going to get you strength gains and muscle gains. So you need strength, you need to work it from different angles, and you need different rep ranges. So you could do a handful of those things, you could do 2 of those things, you could do 1 of those things, and you'll still see some benefit. But from doing all these different things, that's what's netted me the most gains. I'm just going off my experience, trying different things, watching a bunch of YouTube videos, watching people in the gym, just stuff that I've learned, doing stuff for myself that I've learned over the years. But to me, you could build whatever program that you wanted. And as long as you have those different types of elements, something that you're working in a lower rep range, something to push the strength progression, something that you're working in a medium rep range, just to work it in a different rep range and promote some more hypertrophy, something that you're working in a higher rep range, which is going to help you work on some muscle endurance. That way you can do more reps. Just all those different aspects of it, doing it from different angles. So, you're not just doing a pull down, I'm also doing a chin up. So, I'm going from having my hands from one grip to another grip that's going to work the back from a different angle. Just all these very different things put together is what makes a hypertrophy program. So keep that in mind if you're making your own program. I do have a program and I'll be coming out with more programs, but if you just want to make your own, that's perfectly fine too. I think it's awesome if somebody will make their own program. And I'll tell you guys that even as a coach, it's awesome if somebody can make their own program because you'll be able to find out what works best for you before usually a coach can. A coach, if they've done it for long enough, done it longer than me, I'm still relatively new at it, so I can't give myself the singing graces that a coach that's done it for 10 or 15 years can. But you'll be able to figure out what works for you and just be able to be like, okay, that just doesn't work. This works better. Let's go with that. And the very last thing that I didn't mention is everything is taken relatively close to failure. So more risky exercises like squats, for example, it's a risky exercise. I don't take that to failure. I might always leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank, just because to me going to absolute failure on squats it's not worth it. It's not going to kill you. Probably it could kill you if you let the bar roll over on your neck. You crush yourself. I crushed myself in the home gym. Nobody's here to help me. Whatever. I just don't think it's worth going that low of reps or going to absolute failure on with no reps in reserve. And things that tend to be less risky, like hammer curls, I take to absolute failure, and then kind of like I said, calves and sometimes triceps. Now I take them beyond failure. I do some forced partials with it, or just a tiny little partial range of motion with it. So that is actually that is all that I had for you guys today. So I will leave you with this video here. The next program that I said I'm going to do, I will do next week. I'm going to do a Kaiju number 8 program. I'm going to have that for you guys. And I actually had some money in my Goku program request. I believe it was Toji from Jujutsu Kaisen. So I'll be doing that as well. I might do those back to back. I might do Kaiju number 8, a different video, and then the Toji one next. But let me know what you guys want to see next. Let me know kind of what different, let me know some of your weaknesses, some different things you're implementing to work on them, so that way maybe we can share some information. If you're looking for any type of coaching or anything like that, let me know. Find me on Instagram. It's the same exact name. It's at Burnett Basics, and we can see what we can work together and get out there, figure out what works for you, and just start implementing stuff. Give it a trial run. Give it 4, 5, 6 weeks to really test and see, and make sure that you're noting stuff down and tracking stuff, so that way you can see if it works for you. That's all that I'm going to leave with you guys today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day.